What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. Day before Halloween, Mischief Night, Halloween Eve, whatever you want to call it. Got to keep your candy cold. But got a 6-game slate here tonight. I like these mid-sized slates. I'll be honest, I'm a little tired already. Didn't sleep too well last night. It happens. You know what I mean? We're here. We're going to break down. I stayed up and watched the Kings-Sharks game for whatever reason. But that did give Ricky the win in the 333. I recognized it immediately. I actually had the screenshot saved. I was going to shout you out. If you didn't give us a super chat anyway, because I know you've been in the Stochastic Discord for the past few years. I don't know if you're in there now or not. I don't. It's so hard to keep up with everybody. You got to keep up with the children. So, knowing if Ricky's in chat, I don't know. But he did give us a $100 super chat. Thank you very much. Took down the 333 yesterday. Thank you, as always, for all you do. Have the lineup in front of me. It is a Sens power play stack without Sanderson. So, Stützle, Norris, Kachuk, Batherson, Beniers, Eberle, Riker, Evans, and a one-off Jake Wallman with Lucas Dostal. That is quite the lineup. Jake Wallman had a good game last night. Winning without Brandon Montour is kind of crazy since he had a hat trick in a 4-point game. So congrats to you. Congrats on the 20K. That's a sweet lineup. Wish I played it.
Yeah, agreed with that. Yeah, that is a really nice lineup. Congrats on that hit. That's it's awesome to see. It's a great lineup. Jake Wallman came through in a big way. We love Jake Wallman here. Sens came through in a big way. Obviously, we're Ottawa Senators fan slappies here as well. But really nice lineup. Thanks a lot for the super chat. We certainly appreciate it. Let's hope we can get another big winner in the chat here tonight.
Yeah, and if you noticed, Lucas Dostal had over 33 DK points, and our boy Frostback was on him last night. The curse has been lifted. I feel like I wish I had a gold coin because I'd be like Jack Sparrow when he's flipping the coin through his fingers after he got the curse. But, it's good for him. He didn't cash, though, but he got goalie right, which is half the battle. Hopefully that continues. He showed me, he put into Discord who he's playing, and I didn't swap. And I ended up with Dostal as well. Nice to see him get a goalie win for once. Hopefully that is the unlock to a heater. So good for him. Let's get into this slate before we do. See, people are already super excited for the Ivan chalk night. We'll talk about Ivan when we get to that game. But just want to say thank you again for all your support for the affiliate sign-up, super chats, thumbs up, views, shout-outs, anything. We appreciate it greatly, bigly, as some say. If you are still not a member and you do want to go premium, you can click that link in the chat. Use promo code Stochastic15. That will give you 15% off monthly or weekly, your first month or week. And I just realized I forgot to introduce Cliffy. Y'all know who he is, though. Slept in a little bit, but how's your Wednesday going?
Yeah, good. Did sleep in a little bit. So hopefully the opposite of your tiredness here on the show. Just kind of excited about this 6-game slate. You and I talked yesterday, and we've mentioned it quite often this season, like that range of 5 to 9 games, 6 to 9 games, something in there. It's kind of what we enjoy playing the most. It does suck when you don't have Tim Stützle's 4-point game or Brandon Montour's hat trick, because that means you can turn off the hockey pretty early. So that's exactly what I did, especially with Montreal getting their brains beat in. Ended up watching most of the World Series. But, I really like this slate here tonight. I like any mid-sized slate like this. I just hate 13 and 14 game slates. So give me a 6-gamer. Don't even care what the teams or matchups are. Let's get this thing rolling.
Well, this slate is interesting, and just one last quick note on the slate yesterday. we're right sometimes, we're wrong often. Just how it goes in the tout life. But there was 10 power plays in the Kings Sharks game, not a single power play goal. And that was probably the best power play spot of the night. Can't win them all. But yeah, 6 games tonight. The biggest favorite is minus 166. Everyone has a total between 2.8 and 3.4. 9 of the 12 teams have 3.1s to 3.4s. It's a very tight slate, which means you probably won't see overly chalky spots. So hopefully, it's similar to last night. There were a couple chalky spots I did like to see. I did love seeing Islanders chalk bust. Not if you played them, but like I had some serious reservations about playing them last night. I didn't. Feels good to be on the right side of that for once. Usually I'm getting buried. But let's get into this slate. Let's win some money. Let's go. Oh, right off the bat, New York Islanders. It's a wonder that I don't get paid the big bucks. You know what I mean? New York Islanders with a 3.3 total heading into Columbus. The Blue Jackets have a 2.8 total. Nothing really of note lines-wise for the Islanders. Cliffy and I had a little chuckle that they are healthy scratching Pierre Engvall tonight. He took a penalty, so they're scratching him. Why? Don't know.
I mean, I think there's a pretty big note with the Islanders lines in that they got completely nuked last night. Yeah. Barzal and Horvat were separated. Casey Zizekas was moved to the top line to play with Barzal or with Horvat, sorry, at one point. They largely kept the Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov line together until late in the game. I think they moved Siplikov up. I assume that line stays together because they've generally played well every game this season, even when the Islanders have lost. But I'm not expecting the same lineup to start today's game that they started yesterday's game. And of course, with them on a back-to-back, we won't know what the lineup is until warm-up.
Also, Barzal got benched for a little bit too. Got taken off the power play, got benched, and then he's the one who scored on the 5-on-3. Patrick Waugh, baby. This is another really good power play spot for the Islanders. It's just like they mixed up the power play units too. Not only did they mix up their lines, they threw Barzal off the power play unit at times. I would be shocked if Simone Holmstrom's still on the top line. It would make sense if Pierre Engvall was there, but he's in the press box looking sharp. Listen. Nelson Palmieri will probably be together. The thing is, I don't even know if Barzal and Horvat are going to be together because a lot of the times after Waugh got hired in the second half last year and they were losing in game, it was always Barzal to go down to the third line. Always.
Yeah. If they didn't put Barzal, Horvat, and Brock Nelson together, there's a lot of times all three were on different lines.
Yeah. So, I guess Islanders 2 would probably be your best bet to comfortable. Luckily, this is the first game, and if you want to play Islanders, you'll see the lines. Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov, but again, they're coming in negatively leveraged. Not as bad as it was last night, but I don't particularly love them. It's a pretty good 5-on-5 matchup. It's a good power play matchup, but with all the uncertainties around the lineup, they got beat by the Ducks last night. If you want to go back to Islanders tonight, that's fine. I would just do some sort of power play stack and then react to the news. Again, they're negatively leveraged. I'm not thrilled about it. Honestly, my favorite line in this game is the Columbus top line, Monahan, Marchenko, Chinnikov. If the Islanders top line is Horvat, Barzal, Holmstrom, that is an advantageous matchup for Columbus. If it's not, it's probably still going to be an advantageous matchup for Columbus, especially if Horvat and Barzal are separated. So, I mean, listen, that Columbus top line in the 70-minute sample have excellent numbers. They're coming right in on their top two stack. They're fully correlated. They're 15-9. The one issue that I do have, even though the Ducks scored 2 power play goals last night, is the Islanders don't take a ton of penalties. It is not Sorokin in net. Varlamov is in net and is back-to-back on the road for the Islanders. But at 8%, at 15-9, I am willing to take chances on Columbus one here tonight. In single entry, they're on my list. Will I get there? Maybe. But the more lineups I'm making, I'm definitely getting to some Columbus one here. So I think that's my favorite line in the game. If you want to go to Islanders, I think I would do some sort of power play stack and then react to the news in warmups. I also think like a Fantilli one-off is fine, but it is Columbus one for me.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Columbus a bit because, as you mentioned, the top line has generally been very good for the Blue Jackets this season. 16.4 high danger shots, 4 per 60 minutes with Chinnikov, Monahan, and Marchenko on the ice. Like, that's like 35% better than the league average. Like, they are generating a ton of offense. This is why that can be kind of misleading, though, is it's actually the Werenski-Provorov pairing that's kind of driving everything. When Sean Monahan's on the ice with that top pair, it's 18.4 high danger shots per 60 when he's off, which is crazy, which is like 50% above the league average. When he does it, when he has any other pair except for those two, it drops to below league average. And it's not, I don't think it's just necessarily a sample thing, because the same thing happens with Adam Fantilli. When Adam Fantilli's on the ice with that top pair, they generate pretty well. When Adam Fantilli's not on the ice with that top pair, he is getting his ass beat defensively. That's kind of the problem here, is that Columbus really only has 2 useful defensemen right now. They're both on the top pair. Now, they play a lot, and they do play a lot with the top line. So I do like Columbus one here, and it's partly an ownership thing. You mentioned how the Islanders are coming in over-owned. They're basically the same price as that old Islanders 2, pretty close top 2 stack percentage, and they're only 8.8% ownership against 12.3 via the top stacks tool. So, like, there's not as much ownership despite everything else being relatively equal. So I do like the top line for that reason. I think if I were to play that top line from Columbus, I would probably include one of the defensemen. I would include either Werenski or Provorov, just because they are playing, that top line's playing something like 55% of their time with that top pair. Like, that's why their numbers have generally been pretty good, because it's that Vancouver thing that we talked about. We'll talk about Vancouver later. Like, JT Miller at home plays a lot with Quinn Hughes on the ice. It's kind of the same thing with Columbus. Sean Monahan's line plays a lot with the Werenski-Provorov pairing. For that reason, I do like them here tonight. But again, if I were to play them, I would probably include one of the top pair defensemen. Other than that, I'm kind of serious when I say I think my favorite Columbus line, other than the top line, is the 4th line. I guess the 3rd line, Justin Danforth, Matthew Olivier, and Zach Aston Reese. They're getting ice time. That's one thing, right? Like, Justin Danforth might play like 16, 17 minutes. Zach Aston Reese, like 13-ish, something like that. It's probably going to be more than, James Van Riemsdyk or whatever. They're playing reasonably well. They're not generating a ton, but they're also not allowing a ton. I think that Danforth line is one of those, Danforth, Zach Aston Reese 2-man or something like that. Like, if you're playing Colorado expensive, Tampa Bay expensive, something like that, they're at least one of the trios to consider. But it is a Columbus one game. On the Islanders side, like, we honestly, we just don't know what the lines are going to be. And we don't even know if the lines at warmups are going to be the lines by the end of the first period. Like, this team is in full-blown panic mode right now. I will say I do like the Nelson, Palmieri, Siplikov line. They have played well this season. 13.9 high danger chances, 4 per 60, 10.9 against, 4.7 goals, 4 per 60. Like, they're well above average offensively. 2 out of the 3 guys still on the top power play unit. They're probably going to, like, We'll see what the Islanders lines look like, but that'll probably avoid the Werenski-Provorov pairing for the most part. And when those two are off the ice, like Columbus is getting hemmed in their zone with frequency. So I do like that Islanders second line here, but the thing is like they're pretty close to that Columbus top line. If the Columbus top line is going to come in with less ownership, I'll just play Columbus one instead.
We are in agreement. Winnipeg Jets. They 3.2 total heading into Detroit. The Wings 2.8 total. This game is a game.
This is another flowchart special, by the way.
Yeah, this is a gong show. I see Clayton saying not even a mention for this year's Hart winner, Cole Sillinger. That is a bannable offense, my friend. I have never banned anyone from the chat, but don't push it. It's a joke. He is basically our chat moderator. This is the flowiest flow chart to ever chart. The Jets are the biggest favorites on the slate. It's only minus 166. Whatever. Like, it's not a huge, but they are on the road. If they're at home, they'd probably be a minus 215 favorite or something like that. Connor Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Perfidi, Nemestikov, Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton. Detroit going Larkin, DeBrincat, Raymond. Tarasenko didn't skate this morning. They could go 11-7 tonight after trading Oli Mata yesterday. So, maybe Tarasenko plays. I don't know. Here's the thing. This is a pretty good matchup at 5-on-5 for Detroit 1 because Connor, Scheifele, Velarde just have not been good at 5-on-5. The problem that I'm running into, which I often run into, is I don't like stacking against Connor Hellebuyck. Now, it's a good 5-on-5 matchup, and the Wings have one of the best power play units in the league to start this season. And Winnipeg does not have a good penalty kill. And Cliffy talked about it, I think it was last week on a show. Don't quote me on that. But this line is 16,600. When they were cruising 5-on-5 and on the power play at the beginning of last season, they were up over 20,000, I think.
Not even just the beginning of last season. It was for a pretty sizable chunk of the season.
Yeah. 16,600. They have 11.3% top two stack, 11.9% projected ownership. Like, that's negligible. I don't know why I can't speak English sometimes. Negative leverage. I'm kind of interested in Detroit 1 here. Like, Scheifele, Velarde, Connor, their sample, I think, is up over 100 minutes so far this season. They're giving up over 3 expected goals against per 60. It's a good power play matchup. The one thing, like, if it was any other goalie besides Hellebuyck in this game, like, I would be like, this is the time. Hellebuyck is giving me a little bit of pause, but this is a really, really good spot. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but man, 16,600, good 5-on-5, good power play. I'm thinking about it. On the flip side, it's a good power play spot for the Jets. The Wings are just a mess defensively. They don't have a great penalty kill. Connor Scheifele, Velarde, fully correlated. They have positive leverage. They have a higher top two stack percentage than Detroit. They are $2,300 more at 18.9. Again, this is a line that would be over 20,000 when they're rolling too. You know what I mean? I'm in on both top lines here. Price-wise, I think I prefer Detroit 1. It does scare me that Hellebuyck's starting. If you want to play Winnipeg 1, that's fine, but I feel like they have to get there on special teams because they're not great 5-on-5. So I like both top lines here. The depth is not really interesting to me. One-off Nikolai Ehlers is probably Ehlers and Kane added into stacks or as one-offs are fine, but it's top lines for me.
Yeah, I'll start on the Detroit side. You're right about Detroit one. Like when this line is producing well, like they are a $20,000 line. They're not generating a ton to start this season so far. 8.2 high danger shots per 60 at 5-on-5. That's really not that great. Still not a huge sample. It's still October. They have played some, decent defensive teams as well. The last few games have been Edmonton, New Jersey, the Islanders. So like there have been some tougher defensive matchups in there, but they are perfectly correlated on the power play. The Jets' penalty kill is not great. The problem is like Winnipeg doesn't take very many penalties. They've only taken 18 penalties in 9 games, so they've only given up 2 power play goals against in those 9 games. Like they're just not going to the box very much. But I do think that they would have the advantage over Winnipeg one in the head-to-head matchup. Winnipeg won 13.8 high danger shots against per 60 in their time together. Like they're not playing well. In fact, these Winnipeg lines were broken up last game when they were losing to Toronto, and Winnipeg was an 8-0 team going into that game. They had won their first 8 games of the season, and they blew up their lines halfway through the 9th game. I think the coach might kind of have an idea. These aren't the optimal lines. They might be the lines that the players want, which might be that's just me conjecturing. I'm not convinced that they wholly stay together, but as currently constructed, I do think Detroit one might have an edge at 5-on-5, but Winnipeg one has the edge on the power play. And considering how many minutes those Winnipeg guys get, Connor and Scheifele are almost certainly going to play over 20 minutes, unless it's a blowout. So I do think both top lines are very much in play here. I would probably lean Winnipeg just because I'll take the team that has the higher power play upside over the one that doesn't. Detroit's been a mess defensively at basically everywhere. Where Winnipeg isn't been great, but they also do have Connor Hellebuck, as you mentioned. So in a nutshell, I'll go Winnipeg 1 over Detroit. Winnipeg 1, 14.6% top 2 stack, 9.3% ownership. I do think Winnipeg has 3 playable lines here tonight, though. The second line, they've been playing well. They don't get a ton of minutes, but they're priced very cheap at 11,700 there. Filler stack you can put in with Colorado 1 or something like that. The middle 6 of Detroit there's just nothing there. And in fact, trading Olimata gets rid of their second best defensive defenseman, probably. Yeah, honestly, I don't know who else would be above him. Like, if you want to say Cedar, yes, fine. Like Justin Holl, Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie. I mean, maybe Edvinsson, depending how you view him.
Maybe.
Like Motto is no worse than their third defenseman, and this team already sucked ass defensively. So, I really do like Winnipeg 1. I think Winnipeg 3 is also in play if you need a super cheap filler to go with expensive Tampa Bay or something like that. That Winnipeg third line, 12.9 high danger shots per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. Just to put that into context, the Winnipeg top line's at 7.1. So the third line's playing pretty well. So I do think Winnipeg has 3 playable lines. Both top lines would be my focus in this game, but I do like the Winnipeg side better.
And when they did blow up their lines, it was Ehlers to move up to the top line. He is on that power play. So if you want to get a little bit feisty and, leave off Velarde and put in Ehlers, it's fine. It was Ehlers and Connor who swapped. Like Connor went down to the third line, but I think Scott Arniel kind of knows that it's Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde is the line that he wants together. But, it is what it is. Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3.3 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avalanche have a 3.2 total. Ross Colton to the IR. He's going to miss significant time, Jared Bednar says. It looks like Oliver Shillington's going to be playing some forward tonight. That's how banged up they are.
I mean, Miles Woods.
Yeah, Miles Morningwood. He can't rise up tonight. There's a blue pill for that, but, he's out. It's McKinnon, Rantanen, Nikolai Kovalenko, Casey Middlestat, Logan O'Connor, Ivan. Couldn't even tell you who's on the third and fourth lines. I don't know. It's like the
I
Oilers.
mean, it might be like Parker Kelly, Joel Cavaranta, and Oliver Shillington on the third line, something like that.
Yeah, it's like before the Oilers got Arvidsson and Skinner, you could have named anybody and told me they were in the Oilers' bottom six, and I would have believed you. I just don't know who they are. Tampa going Kucherov, Gensel, Point, Hagel, Cirelli, Geeky. At some point, I mean, it's already caught up to them, but at some point, like, all these losses are going to start affecting them. McKinnon and Rantanen played in a 5-2 loss. They were pushing 25 minutes. Like, these guys are going to play so much tonight. It's ridiculous. They're 21,800, 30.7% top two stacks, 17.2% projected ownership. I just, like, this roster is a shell of itself. Georgiev has gone from the starter to the third goalie. Capo Kakkonen is starting tonight. He couldn't even make it on the Sharks team last year. He's not in the player pool. But all I wanted to say, like, I was just wishing that Tampa 1 would be priced properly. They're $2,200 more than Colorado. I think Kucherov one-off is probably my favorite play in this game. Hagel Cirelli is in play bigly. For some reason, they're coming in at 1.2%. Like, I don't know. Casey Middlestat and Logan O'Connor have been pretty good together. It is a small sample, but I don't know what Ivan might play 9 minutes tonight. You just don't know. Will he be on the top power play at the end of the first period? I don't know. Like, and that's the issue with playing Colorado too, right? Like, Middlestat will play his minutes on the top power play. Ivan at least has been priced, but he could end up playing 9 minutes and getting a nice 0. I'm on the Tampa side here. Like, McKinnon, Rantanen, Middlestat, Makar. Those would be the guys that I concentrate on if I'm playing Colorado. You could do like McKinnon, Rantanen, Middlestat, 3-man, because it's a good power play spot. It's just like, at some point, they're just not going to be good 5-on-5 with all these injuries. I want to play Kucherov, Gensel, Point. They have the highest top two stack on the night, just 24,000. Like, maybe I do it tonight because of all these injuries and Capo Kakkonen in that, because they're only coming in with 8.3% projected. Like, I know for the past week I've been banging the drum saying, like, why would I pay $24K for Tampa 1 when I can play Colorado 1 for less? I think I'm kind of flipped here tonight. It's an ownership thing, and it's a matchup thing. If you're going to give me lower ownership on Tampa 1, even though they're more expensive, I know they're on the road, but this Colorado roster is a shell of itself. I'm in on Tampa 1. I'm in on Tampa 2. I do like Colorado power play because it is a power play spot, good power play spot. I'm just worried about Ivan sticking there. I would concentrate on McKinnon, Rantanen, Middlestat, Makar.
Yeah, both sides I think are definitely in play here. And the thing is, I think there are a lot of playable super cheap lines, like 6-game slate. And if you're paying up, you're going to have to save somewhere. But like we mentioned a Columbus line earlier that I think would be just fine. I think the Islanders' third line, depending how they line up, might be just fine. We mentioned Winnipeg 3. We'll get to the Calgary game next. There's a Calgary line that I think would be just fine as well. Los Angeles 3, assuming they go back to normal configurations, would be in there. Like, there are cheap stacks elsewhere. And if you just want to jam in the expensive guys and then just play some value around it, I think that's in play too. I do like Colorado 1 here. Like, I know what you're saying. It is nuts that they're basically missing like
3 lines?
six or 7 guys out of the starting lineup, including like half of their top 6. But as you mentioned, like, they're going to play like 24 minutes, and McKinnon and Rantanen are able to carry just about anybody. Yeah. And that Tampa Bay top line has not been good defensively. 12.7 high danger shot attempts against per 60. That's worse than league average. The Tampa Bay penalty kill worse than league average. Tampa Bay, 3.6 times shorthanded per game, worse than league average. Like, there are a lot of good matchups for Colorado 1 here tonight. They are coming in with reasonably high ownership, but 6-game slate, 17.2% ownership, 30.7% top 2 stack percentage. As you mentioned, Casey Middlestat's on the top power play unit. So if you just want to do like a Middlestat, McKinnon, Rantanen stack instead of putting Kovalenko or something, I think that's just fine. I really do like Colorado 1 here tonight. I think it's a really good matchup for them. One thing I will mention, I'm pretty sure in Colorado's practice today that they broke up Devin Taves and Cale Makar, and they put Devin Taves alongside Josh Manson. That would tell me that I think Taves and Manson are probably going to go out against that top line from Tampa Bay quite a bit. And Taves and Manson have been really, really good defensively whenever they've been able to play together. They're not as good offensively, obviously, as with Makar there, but I think it would make a better defensive pairing, especially when you really have to worry about that one line. So, I do think that there are reasons to not play Tampa. I really do like Colorado 1. I think Tampa 1's certainly in play here. Colorado's penalty kill has been bad, but is basically all driven by goaltending. 760 save percentage on the penalty kill. Like, the worst in the league last year was like 825. This team's at 760. So if Kakinen can just make a couple power play saves, he'll be fine. I think Tampa 1 is in play. I'm going to be honest. I would probably rather play Colorado 1 here. Tampa 2 is a little bit more where I'm kind of interested. Hagel and Cirelli have just been so good this year. 18 high danger shots per 60 at 5-on-5, 7.5 against. Power play time. Cirelli's not on the top power play, but he could still play upwards of like 18 minutes. That Colorado, like, after the top line, there's just nothing left for the Avs to play with. And especially if Taves and Manson are constantly on the ice against Tampa's top line, there aren't great defense pairs to match up with Cirelli and Hagel. So I honestly think this is a situation where I would just cross my fingers and hope that Kaapo Kähkönen doesn't pull an Alexander Georgiev and is actually more like Justice Annunen. Goalies are goalies. We'll see what happens. I think I'm more on the Colorado side here, but Hagel, Cirelli, and Connor Geekie does interest me as kind of more of a fillery type stack on the Tampa side.
Yeah. I mean, your points are good. Man, if there is a spot for Tampa, like, I know they're going to go out against McKinnon. I know they're going to go out against Taves and Manson, but like, that roster is something, man. I don't know. I'll put some more thought to it. It's crazy how many people they're missing. Calgary. You can take the Pilot Lights name off and call them the Flames again. They 3.1 total heading into Utah. The Soakers have a 3.3 total. Calgary going back to some old lines here. We truly do love to see it. It is Kadri, Zari, Pospisil. That was one of our favorites last year. They're putting Sharon Govich with Kuzmenko and Huberdeau. That is a fully correlated line. And then Backlund and Coleman are playing with Hanzik. I think they have to activate him, so there could be a corresponding move there. Dustin Wolf mercifully in net for the Flames. Utah rolling back their lines from the other night. Keller, Genther, Cooley, Schmaltz, Hayton, Machelli, Peanut Butter and Jelly, Bukestad, Krause, Kerfoot. We don't have an updated run with these new Calgary lines. They basically came out as we were coming on the air. I'll always have interest in Kadri, Zari, and Pospisil. They were very, very good last year. The issue we ran into last year was Zari and Pospisil just didn't play a ton of minutes. I think they're fine here tonight. I do want to see the ownership run.
We just got one.
We just got one. Let's refresh.
Yeah. So Sharon Govich, Kuzmenko, Huberdeau, 1.2% ownership. Kadri, Zari, Pospisil, 10.6% ownership.
Well. How are the turntables? Honestly, like I was kind of gonna fade Kadri Pospisil anyway, and the point I was about to make is Huberdeau, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko are fully correlated. This is an excellent power play spot. None of these Utah lines scare me defensively. They may honestly avoid the Sergachev pairing as well. Mata should be in the lineup. I don't know where in the lineup he's going to be, but third best defenseman on Detroit really isn't a participation trophy that you want to have on your shelf. I mean, he'll help.
I mean, he might be the third best defenseman in Utah now, man. They're missing, they're missing Marino, they're missing Jersey. So
I like Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, Huberdeau. I remember there was a show last year where I like completely threw them under the bus because I was like, who's going to shoot on this line? And then Huberdeau ended up being optimal, and I just stuck my tail between my legs and cried for 3 weeks. But this is fully correlated in a very good power play spot. Again, there's nothing coming back the other way that really worries me. I'm in on Huberdeau, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko. Again, Kadri, Zari, Pospisil. I do like them, but give me the power play guys in this matchup. On the Utah side, if anything, it would be Keller, Genther, Cooley, but I'm not a huge fan. Like, I liked them the other night, and I preferred when Masali was with Bukestad and Krause. I just don't love these lines until we get a decent sample on them. Like at 8.4% project and go with Kuzmenko, you know what I mean? I think Keller, Genther, Cooley are completely fine here. They're just other lines in that price range that I would rather play. Like they're kind of priced to no man's land. They're a little bit more expensive than Detroit one, a little bit less expensive than Winnipeg one, you know what I mean? I'd rather play those two lines here tonight. So my favorite line is Huberdeau, Sharangovich, and Kuzmenko.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I kind of have to agree with you. It's weird to say. That Huberdeau, Kuzmenko, Sharangovich line was legit good last year. Now, they didn't play a ton. I think it was like 105 minutes together. 11.2 high danger shots for per 60, 6.8 against. Like they actually carried the play, 67 shot attempts overall, 4 per 60, 48 against. Like they carried the play. They are perfectly correlated on the power play, assuming Calgary runs back the same power play units as the last game. And this is a really, really good power play spot. Utah is giving up 3.9 power play opportunities per game to the opponent. They've given up, I think it's 9 power play goals against in 10 games. Like the actual penalty kill itself is not bad. Like their shots against and goals against per minute and all that is like middle of the league. But they're taking so many penalties that they're giving up nearly a power play goal against per game. I think this is a good spot to get a perfectly correlated line that is $12,900 into your lineups. Like if you're not playing Tampa, Colorado, I mean, I think you can even fit them in with Colorado. But if you're not, especially if you're playing Winnipeg or Detroit, or, we'll get to Vegas later, or New Jersey or something like that, and you want to play expensive defensemen or you want to play expensive goalies, those types of things, I think this is one of the lines that I would look to. Again, Kadri, Pospisil, and Zari, good together last year, but the ice time that you mentioned is a real question, right? Because if Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, and Huberdeau are perfectly correlated on the power play, Kadri's going to be with them. That means Zari's off the top power play. Pospisil's probably not on either of them. They might, Pospisil play like 12 minutes. Zari maybe like 13 to 14. Kadri's been playing less than Michael Backlund, so like might not get a ton of ice time from them. I know the top 2 stack percentage is lower, but it's a fraction of the ownership at $500 more. So, yeah, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko, Huberdeau is the line I do like in this game. On the Utah side, I think their top 2 lines are very much both in play. Dustin Wolf, I do think is an upgrade over Dan Vladash. Genther and Keller last season, like good offensively, about league average by high danger shots generated per 60, that they've been better this year. I don't think that's a big surprise with Genther being in his second season. It's not a terrible power play spot for them either. Calgary isn't taking as many penalties, but their penalty kills average. I think Utah's top line is very much in play here. Utah's second line also in play if you want to save some money. Neither are really coming in with a ton of ownership. But honestly, if I can get a perfectly correlated Calgary line at 1, 2, 3 under 5% ownership, I think that's where I would prefer to go tonight. But let's not overlook Utah here. They do have a 3.3 total. I think for very good reason. It's because Calgary's not a very good team. They need to get bailed out by their goalie. If Dustin Wolf doesn't bail them out, Utah can pop 5 goals here tonight.
Yeah, and the issue with that Huberdeau line is there are 3 wings on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I did go and check. You can fit them with a double center Colorado stack. You can fit them with McKinnon, Rantanen, and middle stack. You would have to punt defenseman and goalie, but they are 3 wing. We'll talk about New Jersey later. We always love the New Jersey double center.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are a ton of one-off centers that are viable here tonight if you don't want to double stack a center, like one-off McKinnon, one-off Eichel, one-off Hughes, one-off Brock Nelson. All those types of things I think are very much in play, especially where this line's so cheap.
Yep. Oh boy. Liking Calgary here tonight. What have we become? Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.1 total heading into Los Angeles. The Kings have a 2.9. Kings lost to the Sharks in San Jose last night. Not a very long trip back to Los Angeles. Very short trip. Unless they took the 5 or the 405 or the 105. So it was a long trip if they drove. Vegas going Eichel, Stone, Barbashev, Hurdle, Dorofeyev, Howden, Carlson, Pearson, Holtz. Would assume... Well, I don't know if Fiala's going to be... He missed a team meeting and they scratched him. I would assume he's back in tonight's not an injury.
I imagine after that team, I think they went 0 for 6 on the power play or something. I imagine he's going to be back in the lineup.
Yeah, he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink on that top power play unit. And then they had to move Byfield to the top unit, and he was kind of the straw that stirs the drink on the second unit. So they really struggled on the power play yesterday. The thing is, Vegas just doesn't take penalties. So, I don't have a ton of interest in the Kings here. The Vegas side is more interesting to me, and this is a pretty good power play spot for Vegas. The top line's 21-5, and that's the issue I'm kind of running into with that top line. You can go play Colorado in a higher total at home in a decent power play matchup for less. Tampa Bay has a 3.3 total, a higher total, a fully correlated line, and a good, a decent power play spot, goalie pending. You know what I mean? So, I think they're fine. But if you want to get power play guys, I think I'd go to Hurdle, Dorofeyev and Howden at 12-7. They are a little bit negative leverage, but you can leave off Howden and add in Eichel. Since Eichel's been traded from Buffalo, no one talks about him, and all he does is win. And, I think, Mike Harrington and those clowns kind of sent out the hit job on Eichel, but I think I go double center like Hurdle, Eichel, Dorofeyev, something like that. Stone, Dorofeyev, Hurdle. I would mix and match the power play guys here. Outright stacking Vegas one is fine, but they're shooting way over their head. I want to concentrate on the power play here. On the Kings side, I want to see the lines, right? Make sure that Fiala's back in. Make sure Laferriere, Fogle, Turcotte's together. Again, it would be an MME type deal for me. I don't love this matchup. So if you are playing Kings, just make sure that, you have the correct lines. But it's an MME play for me. My favorite play is Vegas power play.
Yeah, the tough thing is what the Los Angeles lines are going to be, right? Because Fiala was scratched yesterday. They lost to San Jose. A loss to San Jose, and you have Kevin Fiala out. I could imagine, maybe we see some pretty scrambled lines here, which is a little bit of a
Byfield back to center. I wouldn't be shocked to see that.
I was thinking maybe they move Laferriere back to the top line, and then maybe put like Byfield and Fiala back together or something like that. But then you're kind of punishing Alex Turcotte, and Turcotte's been playing pretty well. Like the third line has basically been the best line all season.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what the Kings are going to do here. In a nutshell, they do have more Danault and Fiala back together. That would be something that I would kind of have interest in. You're right. It's not a power play spot, so I'm not super worried about power play correlation. That line has been able to generate reasonably well this season, 12 high danger shots per 60. That Danault Moore duo was a duo that we've used quite a bit, basically since Phil Danault got to Los Angeles a few years ago. I have concerns about stacking because if their lines are screwed up, having enough salary or not leaving a ton of salary on the table, and then there's only one other game that starts after this. So, I think a one-off Laferriere, one-off Fogle, one-off Fiala, all those things are perfectly fine. I'm not looking to necessarily stack the Kings here. I do like the Vegas side more. If Calgary going into Utah isn't the best power play spot on the board, then Vegas going into Los Angeles is the best power play spot on the board, because Los Angeles 4.3 times shorthanded per game so far this season. They've given up 10 power play goals against in 10 games. A lot of it is driven by the goaltending, 786 penalty kill save percentage. They're actually not allowing a ton of shots, but the goaltending's just not been very good. Whereas Vegas power play has been very good. 2 guys on the top line on the top unit, 2 guys on the second line on the second unit. So it's kind of what you're doing elsewhere in your lineup. What do you want to go with? I would probably agree with you and go with Hurdle, Dorfev, and Howden, just because I'm worried about the floor eventually falling out from under Stone, Eichel, and Barbashev, just because they are still shooting like 22% or whatever. Like half that would be an elite rate. And they're not generating a ton of shots. They are generating good quality. Like, I'm not debating that. That Vegas top line, 12.6 high danger shots per 60. That's pretty good. But the problem is that they're shooting probably double the shooting percentage that they should be at. And they didn't have a great game last time out. I wonder if they have like a few rough games kind of settle into where they should be. I do like Vegas too. With Howden there, carrying the play, carrying the high danger chances. I noticed Pavel Dorofeyev, after a bit of a slow start to his shooting, is up near 1 expected goal per 60 at 5-on-5. Like, he's a guy that does get to the front of the net, generate a lot of shots at 5-on-5. I think he can kind of expose the Los Angeles Kings defense in that sense. I agree with you. I do like Vegas too here. 12.7K, 2.1% top 2 stack, 4% ownership. The issue I'm running into is that if I'm looking for a filler stack in that price range, I'm probably just going to go play Calgary instead. But I do like Vegas too in this matchup.
Yeah. I don't know who I like better between Calgary and Vegas too, but you like Calgary. I'm kind of on the fence. I like New Jersey Devils with a 3.1 total. Heading into Vancouver, the Canucks have a 3.4. Artur Sheeloff's in net for Vancouver, which is a big concern if you are a Canucks fan here tonight. The JT Miller, Besser, DeBrusk line has been very, very good. As you mentioned, they do go out a ton with Hughes and Hronek. Vancouver has the highest total on the board here tonight, and I'm a little bit stumped as to why. Like, the Devils don't take a ton of penalties. It's not a very good power play spot. I know Markstrom hasn't been great, but like, the Devils are a pretty good team. That is a little bit confusing. But the reason I'm mentioning how good Miller, Besser, and DeBrusk are is because they're excellent defensively with Hughes and Hronek out with them at home. They'll be going out against Hughes, Bratt, and Palat. It's just the goaltender, right? Like, I'm fine with Hughes and Bratt just because it's the goaltender has been awful. He has like a 4. He's just been awful. I like Nico Hischier a little bit better. They get better 5-on-5 matchups. The Pettersson line, no matter who Pettersson plays with. There we go. No matter who Pettersson it goes out with, their expected goals numbers kind of get skewed. He's kind of like Panarin in that sense, but like they haven't been great defensively. You get Hischier on the top power play. He's been playing a ton of minutes. I know Meyer and Mercer aren't on the top power play unit, but they have been good together in an almost 70-minute sample. I'm more in on Hischier, Meyer, Mercer. But if you want to go to Hughes and Bratt, because you get top power play time and they're shooting against Artur Shilovs, then I think it's fine. But Nico Hischier line is my favorite on the Devils side. On the Vancouver side, it would be Miller, Besser, DeBrusk. I don't particularly love the matchup for Pettersson on either side of the ice, so it would be Miller, the Miller line for me. Hischier line on the Devil side, Miller line. I'm fine with both the Pettersson line and the Hughes line. Hughes line just because on who they're shooting against, and the Pettersson line because they're cheap. They are negatively leveraged pretty badly, and they're kind of in that price range with Calgary and Vegas too. So like in that sense, I don't particularly love them, but you do get two guys on the top power play unit. The Devils don't take a ton of penalties, but you know, I'm fine with them. I prefer the JT Miller, Besser, DeBrusk line though.
Yeah, I'll say off the hop, I have no interest in the Pettersson line. Mentioned it on the show. I believe on Monday, we were looking at some of the skating data from Elias Pettersson, and they're just way down from last year. He talked about how he had knee tendonitis for the final couple months of last season and in the playoffs. He's been off to he hasn't had a game yet with more than 4 shot attempts, not 4 shots on goal, 4 shot attempts, not one game yet. If you go back to last regular season, he has 29 points in his last 41 games going back to the All-Star break. That's a 58-point pace over a half season. I wonder how healthy Pettersson is. Like I'm probably done playing him until we see some signs of a turnaround, because I do think he's playing injured, and I just don't want to roster guys that I think are playing injured. And it's not just me conjecturing. Like I said, like he was like a 75th percent top speed skater. He's not a great skater anyway. That was never his game. But he's gone from like 75th percentile to like 45th percentile this season, like a below average skater in the league. And with a lack of shot volume, that's just not going to do it. Miller, Besser, and DeBrusk would be the line that I would go to for a couple reasons. One, Jack Hughes' line just has not been good this year, especially without Timo Meier there. It really hasn't mattered, the combination. They just have not been good, whether it's been Hughes, whether it's Bratt, whether it's their chemistry or lack thereof, whatever you want to say. 9 high danger shots for, 11.7 against with Andre Palat on that line. Like they are getting outplayed. And I think that's a good matchup for Miller, Besser, DeBrusk, who have been on fire with DeBrusk there. 23.2 high danger shots per 60 with DeBrusk on that Miller line. Like they've been really good. I do like them here tonight. They're coming in pretty cheap. 15,600, 9.6% ownership, 7.8% top 2 stack. Not a ton of ownership, decent top 2 stack percentage. It is a bad power play spot. New Jersey doesn't take many penalties, as you mentioned. They're at about 2.8 per game. League average is about 3.1, 3.2. They also have a pretty good penalty kill on top of that. So it's not a good power play spot, but I think it's a fine 5-on-5 matchup for Besser, Miller, and DeBrusk. On the New Jersey side, again, I agree with you. I think it's the Hischier line I like better, because if it's not a good power play matchup for Vancouver, and I think it's a worse power play matchup for the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey, their power play has been better with Stefan Nason there, but Vancouver's had arguably the best penalty kill in the league so far this season. Fewest shot attempts against per 60, third fewest shots against overall per 60 minutes. If you want to leave, if you want to leave one of the wingers off and add Hughes or add Bratt to the Hischier line to make it more of a power play stack, I don't really have a problem with it because it is a short slate and I don't mind stacking across lines anyway. But that Hischier Timo Meier duo, 17.9 high danger shots per 60 so far this season. And you and I have always talked about Meier and Hischier are a better duo than Meier and Hughes. So Meier and Hischier would be the line that I would go to. If you want to leave Dawson Mercer in there, go ahead, but not much ownership, reasonable price, good positive leverage, especially with Shelov's in net, and especially where they're going to see less of Quinn Hughes than Jack will. It is the Hischier line I like best. It might be the Besser line that I like best in this game. It's pretty close for me, but I think it's either the Miller-Besser line or it's the Hischier-Meier line.
Yeah, I mean, like Hughes, Bratt, and Palat don't have a massive sample, but they haven't been great for a Hughes line at either end of the ice. So I tend to agree. I think Besser, Miller, DeBruski is my favorite line in this game.
Also, I do think Vancouver 3 is a reasonable, like one of those filler stacks if you're playing a 24K Tampa Bay or Rantanen, Makar, McKinnon or something. One of those things. I do think like a Bluger, Sherwood, Bluger, Heinen, 2-man or something like that. I think that's in here too.
Danton Heinen slappies on this show. That is the 6 games. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen. Bacon is super excited to talk about defensemen. You done? Nope, he's not done. At the top of the board, we have Makar, Werenski, Hedman, Dobson, Dougie, and Quinn. I think for me, it would be Dobson, Werenski, and Makar. Not in that order. Those would be my top 3. But I'll kick it to you because Bacon's a little riled up. Let me settle him down, and then you can let the people know who you like on the blue line.
Yeah, Noah Dobson for sure is at or near the top of the list, depending what you want to look at. His projection is 3rd on Stochastic tonight, but he has a pretty good value projection. So Dobson for sure. I do like Makar because I like Colorado here tonight. I do like Makar as well. If you want to play Werenski again, I think it's a situation where I would probably have Columbus 1 plus Werenski, something like that, rather than just leaving either of them solo. I'll mention Shea Theodore because, as we said earlier, it's a pretty good power play spot for Los Angeles. It's just Theodore's really relying on production. He doesn't bring a ton of peripherals. That's just a little bit of the concern. I think he's more of a guy like if I was 20 maxing or 150, I'd have him in my lineup. In the mid price range, like Morrissey, Sergachev, and Cedar, all 3 are, I think, 3 of the defensemen that I would really look at here tonight. Like Cedar is going to be running the top power play for Detroit. Obviously, Morrissey gets a ton of minutes in a really good spot here for Winnipeg. Sergachev might get the most minutes of any defenseman on the board here tonight. So Morrissey, Sergachev, and Cedar are 3 of my favorite defensemen, like regardless of price range here. Cheap, Adam Pelech is under 3K in a good spot for the Islanders. I'll mention Adam Cole. Adam Cole, baby. Ian Cole for Arizona. Utah. Hadn't done that in a few shows.
Since the first
Ian Cole for Utah. Don't mind him. With Mata back, I do kind of worry about minutes, but I think Cole's certainly in play. If not him, then Mike Kesselring. Simon Edmondson, especially with Mata gone now, Edmondson might play like 23, 24 minutes, honestly. Ivan Provorov, like him in the home matchup here tonight. Again, if you're playing Columbus 1. I'll mention Devin Taves. When he gets as cheap as he is, he's always in play for me. And Tyler Myers as well at home for Vancouver. 19 minutes, not a ton, but can still bring some peripherals. Might have to block a lot of shots here tonight.
Yeah. He's still riled up. But let's talk about some goalies here. I don't like goalie at all. Merzlikins at 6,900 is viable here tonight against the Islanders. Hellebuck, 8,200. I don't really know other Vasilevsky at 7,400. Wolf is the guy that kind of stands out to me at 7,500. But again, I'm going to kick it to you because this dog is going to, about to go on the deck.
Yeah, there's no goalie that I'm particularly expensive goalie that I'm particularly targeting here tonight. If you want to play Hellebuck or Varlamov or whatever, I think that's fine. But yeah, Wolf at 7,500 on the road against Utah, I think makes a lot of sense. Merzlikins at home against the Islanders. The Islanders haven't been able to score. They've been generating a lot of shots, haven't been able to score. Eventually you got to think that's going to turn, but they've been shut out twice. And then obviously Del Stahl was a wall last night. So, Merzlikins, I think for Columbus for cheap at 6,900 here tonight makes sense as well. If you don't want to play Wolf, I think playing Connor Ingram on the other side of that game makes sense because if Utah's PK can hold out, Calgary really has trouble generating quality at 5-on-5. So I think Connor Ingram would be the goalie that I would target if I was going, at or near that 8K range on DK tonight.
Yeah, put Bacon on the deck. I can think again. If you live on Narrative Street, it's skipping a generation, but Markstrom is back in Vancouver. He was originally on that franchise, but yeah. If you have a lean to anyone here, you play him. Did you mention the Vegas starter?
No.
Or no? I mean, Kings have struggled scoring too. I mean, if it's Aiden Hill at 7,300, I wouldn't mind it. But again, if you have a guy you like, you play him on this slate. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
Go Jets, go. Nikolai Ehlers.
I'm going to go. It's Brocktober after all. We're going Brock Besser.
Fair enough. I thought you were going to say Brock Nelson, but either way.
No. No Islanders. No, not today. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe. We just have to confirm that with the heads above us. But my older son has a Halloween parade at school. So if we could do it from 1 p.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern, that would be good. We'll put out a tweet when we know for sure, but we'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Happy Halloween Eve.
Good luck tonight, everyone.